The world is changing. It's morphing. It's moving. It's all over the place. By the time you're talking about something that's going to happen, you're in it. You're in the future. But that doesn't mean you can't pay attention to trends. Things that are ramping up or already happening but suddenly going to explode in popularity. My guest today is going to help us look at some of those trends so we can plan. We can be better prepared for the future. That's a good place to be. Hold on. This is Relationships at Work, the Employee Experience and Workplace Culture Podcast. Russel here, welcoming you once again to another episode. Thanks so much for being here. I know why you're here. You want to make the world, or at least the work world, a much better place. We know what we could do better. We at least feel that it should be better, but we may not quite know how to get there. Well, there's one tool I want to cement with you. I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit on Russell's world. I'm doing a keynote. I'm putting a presentation together right now around leadership and how powerful leadership is for good and for evil, and reminding those in attendance that they have influence, whether they know it or not, and what they need to kind of look for. Now, as I'm going through this, I'm doing as I do most of my presentations, which is trying to weave in storytelling. Because storytelling is an absolutely, unbelievably important tool when it comes to getting people to understand your message. I know we kind of all know this, but when you have an option to put a number in, and I've got a few numbers, stats and stuff, but if you can put a story in there to really cement it, I mean, listen to this podcast. How many guests have we had on that have talked about best or worst employee experiences from decades ago? And they still resonate like they were in high school, like they were these things that just molded them into the people that they are now, really drove the decision-making through their lives. And storytelling, if you, as a powerful or hope to be powerful influence within your organization, I plead with you to try to collect some stories, either your own stories or those of others that you can really hammer home your message, because we want to do better in the workplace. I know you do. I know I do. So stories are an unbelievable effective tool in trying to get that change to happen. So please do. Just a little tidbit from my little world that I kind of hit me a little harder lately. So I wanted to share that with you. So thank you for indulging me. Well, I have you. Actually, there's one other thing that I wanted to bring up. I'm about to talk to Stacy Sherman. Stacy Sherman is amazing. She has her own podcast, Doing CX Right. She has a real inside, interesting look at corporations and industry and where we're all kind of going. So we're going to be talking about the future. But right now, I just wanted to get us in the present because in the interview, I bring up a possible quote or article that I read about the Microsoft CEO having a problem with remote work. I was wrong. It wasn't the Microsoft CEO. It was actually the Netflix CEO who had said something along the lines of, I don't see anything positive about remote work. Very eager to get everybody back into the office. The backlash, of course, being you don't see it, but why don't you smarten up and learn or get leadership that understands how to actually do remote work properly, where culture can be sustained. Anyway, smarter people than I. But having said that, there was actually a study at Microsoft that interviewed 20,000 of their employees across 11 countries that asked bosses, supervisors, managers, and employees how they felt productivity happened at home. And there was a huge gap between workers who basically said, I work the same, if not more, working from home. Meanwhile, the people they report to were like, I don't see workers working as hard. So even their Microsoft CEO was like, we need to figure this out because there's far too much. He called it productivity paranoia. I like that. That's Satya Nadella. So I've put the Netflix article in the show notes. I put the Microsoft article in the show notes. So I encourage you to check those out. But before you do, let's listen to Stacy as we take a rocket ship into the future and see what kind of workforce trends that we might need to know a little bit more about. Right here on this particular show, we have Stacy Sherman. And here is why she is awesome. She's the Vice President of Marketing, Agent, and Customer Experience at LiveOps Inc., founder and host of the Doing CX Right podcast. She's a contributing writer and business advisor on Forbes Communications Council, Diversity Advancement Community Leader for CXPA. Wow, another acronym. Let's call this Customer Experience Professionals Association. And she's been up on a bunch of top this and top that lists for customer experience leadership. Hello to you, Stacy.
Hello. Who'd you just describe? I want to meet that person.
I know, right? Well, thankfully, there's a mirror right beside you, so you can tilt your head. There's Stacy.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Really excited to talk about our topic because it's are we planning for the future? Are we ready as organizations? Question mark. But before we get into all of that, first question. What's one of your best or worst employee experiences?
Well, I would say they go hand in hand, my best and my worst. So I would say my worst is having worked so incredibly hard to elevate my career at a company. And I really brought a lot of new ideas, new ways of doing things, broke a very traditional brand into something that was of current age, and it's all proven in numbers. And I just couldn't get out of my box. I was in an org box. I couldn't get past the box. And so it was discouraging not to be able to move up and not have any career planning or path to help me get there. And so that was so discouraging, and it was like running in place. With that said, the lesson also for us is there's a lot of blessings that happen also. And the blessing that I choose to focus on, one is the amazing relationships that I got out of that experience and that brand. And they're like family still, members, even though I'm not there anymore. And my family member, I'll just say my daughter, ended up getting an internship. And that experience for my daughter was so wonderful and gold that to me, that made up for everything through my daughter getting that experience, that resume builder during college. So, like I said, out of bad comes good, and out of good comes other opportunities, and that's what life's about.
Even though you were in an environment that didn't nurture you, that didn't move you or provide, I hate saying the ladder because we know that's not how careers work anymore. It's more of like a jungle gym, but there wasn't a path in any other direction. So you feel stifled. You don't feel, inspired, engaged, but not enough to make you so jaded that you're lighting fires on the bridges as you're walking out the door that now your daughter can benefit from. I think that's hugely important to understand. Relationships at work, sometimes a bad experience is circumstantial. Like there's maybe not people that are shitty leaders that are being, malicious in not providing you that career development, but at the same time it exists, it pushes you out. But look, your daughter got an opportunity.
She did. And it didn't come at this after I left. It was all kind of within the same years. But regardless, every job brings us, it changes us. Every job brings so much where we get to grow. And sometimes there's nowhere to grow in the organization, but we grow from the relationships, and we grow from even another job I had where, not at the same company, where I had a boss who was so tough. Every time I brought him a problem with solutions, it's never okay to just give a problem. Here's all the solutions that I tried. And it would be so helpful, Mr. So-and-so, if you could take one action that can remove some obstacles, and it would really help not just me, but our team. And the answer back to me was, no, go figure it out. And I literally despised this person at the time. And now I thank this person because thereafter, every single job, every single project, I now do that. I go figure it out. So again, we learn what to do, we learn what not to do, and all of it is an experience.
Fair point. So, speaking of experiences, we're talking about the future. Cue particular sound effect here. I don't think I'll put one in, but in your own mind, let's do a future little radio thing. Regardless, we're going to talk about workforce trends because the world has changed so much even in the last few years. Some organizations are either prepared for this or they are not prepared for this. And certainly that was demonstrated during the COVID pandemic was that it was a really test for leadership going, oh, you are a crap leader, but we didn't know it till something like hugely like this. Or, you know what? I never knew you had it in you. Wow, this is inspiring as an organization for you to embrace this. So I always find it interesting for this kind of information to be out there and what people need to know and what they do with that information. So let's first talk about some of the trends that have happened rather than looking to the future, more the past of the path that's already existed. What kind of trends do you think have been the most transformative, the biggest shifts maybe in the last, say, decade that has really gotten us where we are now?
One is the investment in resources, money, time, effort in customer experience. Every company I now know, even small ones, are understanding even the word CX. Once upon a time ago, we were like, what's CX? And I even have my brand doing CX right. They're like, what is CX? But now people know, even my friends know who have nothing to do with the industry, but they're understanding it and they're seeing that more. So that is a wonderful progression from people, many people that you and I know in common. All of us together are creating a movement. So that's positive. I would also say that the evolution of measuring customer experience has been evolving. And what was once only Net Promoter Score, NPS, has now evolved to much more and digs into the why someone will or won't recommend. So there's this whole evolution of measurements that I could spend an hour on. I will say to that effect, but a negative trend, is that because people are now drinking the Kool-Aid and understanding that CX is so important, and you and I know that's fueled by employees and agents and contractors and everybody part of your brand. The problem is now everybody's overusing it. And not everybody, many people are making claims that they really don't even know. They're just using the buzzwords. And I caution that. Don't. Get educated, but you can't dilute what is so important and what we've been building the momentum on.
I think the employee side of it, I don't think has really been that light bulb has really not gone off until the last the last 5 years or so. Because I mean, I would go to, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, I'd go to conferences, customer experience conferences, and we'd have this big conversation about the customer, leadership. But you bring up the employee and you get so many glazed eyes. And it'd be so much like, oh, right. Oh, those. And then you'd look at the investment of resources in customers in relation to employees. And it's a joke because these big executive types they see customer equals money. So that's where their eyes and attention go, not realizing they're destroying their culture, focusing on deliverables rather than leadership. And that scared me in the last little while. Have you felt that or seen that?
Yes. And part of a significant problem that actually hasn't gone away yet is it becomes like a hot potato. So, human resources, HR, there's an assumption that HR is taking care of and measuring employee experience. And it's actually, they're more focused on our benefits packages and the recruitment and other traditional employee relations. So when I ask the question, well, who's capturing the voice of the employee as we're going to create this new product development in conjunction with the customer voice? Like all these questions I ask, and everyone's like pointing fingers, and it turns into no one, right? So unless you have a true leader at the top who understands this, that's where the magic happens. But otherwise, everybody's pointing fingers. And a lot of times, HR is the one that's the internal experience, but that's not capturing everything. No, HR is not journey mapping the employee experience the way we do with CX. So that's important.
I like that you pointed out to HR because that has something that's been really permeating in my brain lately going, they do how many different things? You expect them to do planning, everything, every labor relations, everything down the line. They're lawyers, they're this, their internal comms generally sucks because it is one more thing on the 17th side of their desk. So it can never be as effective. And they don't, who has time for VOE? Who has time for internal surveys? Because they have their 3 people in their shop because it's under resourced generally because it's that add-on, that nice to have in a lot of organizations rather than something they invest in because it, don't worry, the call center will have more and more people because it's about the customer. But when it comes to investing internally to the employee, oh, that's something we don't want to invest in, even though they don't realize they're investing in their organization to do that. So I love that you're mentioning HR because my heart breaks for HR professionals because they're expected to do so much and be so effective when they're spinning so many different plates.
I agree. And I have a lot of empathy also in that regard. There's also organizations I've worked in where I felt that HR, human resources, was the wrong title. It could have been in this particular career moment I had that human resource was more of a finance organization. And there was no human heart there. And I remember I went and I said, listen, I need help. I need to like raise this one individual who's so underpaid and is the best performer on the team. A little bit. Like, let's just a little bit, something, the price of a cup of Starbucks. And I had to go through hoops and hurdles and so much to make it happen for so small of an amount. And so that's why I say I felt there was no human in there. It was a finance organization. So I caution, or I should say the opportunity is one, for CX people and companies, definitely partner with your HR, partner with every organization, bring it to light, show how they matter, partner on the journey, and bring the heart. I talk about heart and science of doing CX right. Well, that's part of it.
Absolutely. And I play this little game with Nate Brown, who's been a lovely guest on the podcast, where he posts about customer experience on Twitter. And I will take his tweets and remove every CX or customer experience and put EX and employee experience, and then just share it. It's the exact same bit of content, and it works 99.9% of the time. And I wish a lot of organizations would understand that all that work and effort that they put into understanding the customer, understanding them as people, as brand personas, as personalization. Why the hell are they not doing it with their own employees who want personal experiences, who want to feel like their work matters? So, yeah, having that human element and partnering with your human resources, please do. They have they have a lot of human skills to do a lot of the things we've just talked about, but they can't be all things to all people in an organization. That's where leaders are supposed to be stepping up. Maybe they can provide the tools, maybe they can provide some guidance, but leaders need to lead. And that may be somewhere where it's being fallen down a little bit. So I guess my next question is, are organizations prepared for change? Because we're going to be talking about some future trends, but as a whole, do you feel organizations are prepared for any kind of shifts? because when things like pandemics happen, you sure need to be.
They say yes. Not all really do. And what I mean by that is I've been in organizations where if you could see my mouth, if the listeners could see my mouth, picture the right side of my mouth where the word is, we want you in our organization. You're a change agent. Come, bring new ideas. We've got to do things differently. And then the other side of the mouth, whoa, 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 slow down. You're too fast, Stacy. Whoa. And I'm like, okay, well, which Stacy do you want? Because I could be either one. And that's why I think that there's the desire to transform, but it depends where you are. It depends on the size company. It depends on the people in the organization. Some brands will be more of the same, and others are really going to shift the workforce, shift the flexibility it offers its workers, shift to more of empathetic leadership, shift in time management and what that means. And I also believe that, I really hope there's a trend that there's going to be more CX C-suite spots at the top who are also going to be very connected to all the business lines and bring that invisible thread across the organization to take care of its people, who take care of the customers, and this better world. It is hopefully going to be by the time my daughter and my son are my age. That's what I see.
I want to sort of just take a step further on that as well, and I want to get your thoughts. So do you think at the C-suite level, if there is a chair for CX, should there not be a chair for EX? Or is that the same chair? I don't think it should be, but I'm curious what you think.
Fabulous question. Love that. And I've never been asked that before. And I've definitely had many questions in my life. So no, CX is absolutely the client facing, the customer facing, the external perspective, with the understanding that it doesn't happen without the internal engagement and empowerment. Therefore, EX, AX, agent experience, which is part of my current job, and intern experience, I mean, all these have to be a partnership with individuals. And if there could be a EX focused champion at the top that's not HR, but partners with HR, that's a beautiful state. I think we're far away from that because we don't even have CX at the top yet. And that's definitely, there's an ROI on that one. At the same time, as I'm speaking, as I mentioned, I own CX and AX agent experience, but it's different because the agents don't necessarily, they're not employees, they're agents separately. So independent contractors. So it's a different model. And I'm in charge of leading that experience and making sure they're valued and have the tools they need to deliver customer excellence with the team. So companies can blend it. Do something. Have somebody focusing. I don't even care where it sits.
All right, Stacy, let's get into it. We're going to talk about the top trends that organizations need to look out for in the next year, in the coming years.
I would say there's already a trend of diversity, equity, inclusion managers in companies. I'm seeing a lot of that. So the trend is that's not going to stop. And therefore, we need to have closer partnerships between customer experience and those DEI departments, because When you're creating a persona and journey map and you're developing things for people, you've got to have that in your mindset. And here's an example. Where I worked, there were technicians that go out and fix elevators, and there were very, very few women in that industry. And I remember talking to one elevator technician, and she said to me, and it's a she, said to me, I'm wearing this hard hat, but I have no place to put my ponytail. It wasn't designed for my head. And even the uniform. So that's where I say, as an example, we can't design even clothing, right? Or seatbelts for a car. Or, I mean, there's so many examples where it was made with one kind of person in mind. So that's changing and will continue. So buckle up and get on board with that.
I like too that you took it a step further, and it's not just about feeling comfortable at work. The two examples you gave were about safety. Like, if we're not even keeping our own employees safe because we have a cookie cutter white male uniform fits everybody, it's not going to work from a safety standpoint. And I don't know about you, but I like keeping my employees safe. That's semi very important to me.
All right. Well, now you led me to the second one, which is safety, not just physical, psychological. That is becoming a trend that I'm grateful for, because we all know, we don't know the impact of COVID, what it did on us. We're not going to know for a while. We're starting to see it, feel it from the experiences we had, but it's coming. We don't even know what to plan for, what that year or 2 years did to us. So the psychological safety of being able to talk openly, a speak up culture, is going to be where people choose to stay, to be, to refer.
I hope that becomes more of a priority. I really do.
Yes.
Next up, Stacy.
I would say better time management and less is more mindset. So it's easy, especially when you're excited about what you do and when you love what you do. It's the complete opposite of quiet quitting, where I know for myself, I love with passion everything I put my hands on. And yet, the traditional long days, long meetings, etc., like, it's changed. Time has changed, especially those that work from home. It's changed. So we do have to get more efficient. We do need to use technology to help us simplify. And I think there's a lot of companies with their AI and their IoT and all these sophisticated technologies that are helping employees to do that, to better be efficient, time management. We cannot also lose the human element. So I encourage managers to also bring people together, figure out how, because we need that, we crave that, but within the right time and place.
Do you mean a trend towards we are going to get better, or we need to prioritize this more because it's just going to keep getting busier?
I think managers are recognizing the less is more mindset. I see even in performance objectives, it used to be I had like 8 or 10. Now it's like, what are your top 3 or 5, 3 to 5 big rocks, right? Like, it's less is more mindset and managing your time to more focus. And I think technology is also enabling us to do that. So it's a shift in mindset and how we spend our time and our energy.
Funny, I had a question. I think it was just the other day. I got asked, "So, what did you do today?" I'm like, "Oh, lots." What did you release? I'm like, Nothing." Now I had so many things to do. My win is moving the needle. I didn't release finish, complete nothing. But the 1,700 things on my plate, I move them a little bit further along. And it's a psychological thing. If I don't feel like I'm actually releasing anything and I'm just spinning the wheel of moving the piece of cheese just a little bit further, I'm going to burn out. I'm going to feel like I never actually accomplish anything. Yeah, time management. Oh, please, let's get this figured out.
Well, you said something I want to stress very loudly. As a leader of teams, I make sure everyone must make sure they too celebrate, acknowledge the milestones because our people are also the same as like there's no big announcement to make, but yet all these milestones are getting to that big wow. And so we as leaders, as employee people managers, make sure you take time out to recognize those.
Next trend.
I would say that we're getting way past Net Promoter, NPS. It's a great place to start for companies that haven't measured customer experiences and even employee experiences, the INPS ratings. A lot of companies really understand the importance of effort and sentiments and increasing those to gauge customer satisfaction and even future behaviors of whether people will buy again, tell others or not. So the bottom line is the measurements, the metrics are getting more sophisticated. Feelings matter, sentiments matter, and everybody's hearing the buzzwords of frictionless. That's not going away. The more friction we can remove, the pain points, and measure against that, and then work with your internal teams, that's a trend I'm in big favor of.
I like the idea of the ENPS or IPS, which is for anybody listening, is the Net Promoter Score for internal. And for those who may not know what Net Promoter Score is, it is asking the question: would you recommend? I guess externally, it's would you recommend this product service to somebody else? And for internal, for the employee, it's would you recommend this place as a place to work on a scale from 1 to 8 and 1 to 10, sorry. And if you're in 9 and 10, it's good. And basically anything 8 below, you got to figure yourself out. I love that, but I also love that you're bringing up the fact that it is not that simple. It's a nice question, it's an important question, but there needs to be other questions. As much as the NPS, which is very much about the organization's exterior brand, that interior brand really, really matters. And I wish and hope, I love that that's a trend. If we're going to get into that arena of better understanding, what did I hear the other day? The emotional aftertaste of the experience that they have, whether externally or internally.
Yes. I hope, I don't know, but what we were talking about early on is with the CX leads, again, partnering closely with, at this point, it's HR. There's no EX leads by itself as a role, whereby even things like exit interviews, nobody has ever shared with me the exit interview data that is so important even for CX teams to be able to help, support, retain. And I think we need to have that closer alignment. And with that, which is incredibly hard, but I'm not giving up, is in general breaking silos within companies. That to me, I encourage everyone listening, again, not in your job description, but go break the silos. People want it, but nobody's stepping up to do it. And you can.
Nothing creates better empathy within an organization than understanding what other people do. including their successes and their challenges. Because if I understood, Stacy, you work in another department and I only talk to you when you need something or I need something, as opposed to, oh, this is why it's taking forever for her to get back to me because she's busy. She's got a lot on her plate. I can't believe that that got dropped on her because I know you as a person. I know you as the work that you have to do. So busting silos isn't just about synergy of work. It's all about humanizing the organization, I think, a lot better too. Oh, please, more of that. Please, pretty please.
But with anything, if you're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, if you're talking about the meld of CX and EX coming closer together, or positions that are more investments in those, like all of this is the power of intention and us owning it. Every company I've ever worked for, yes, there's a job description. It's a moment in time. I look at every single role I have as Play-Doh in front of me on my desk. How am I going to mold it? How am I going to make an impact? Nobody's going to tell you how to do it. And of course, in my 20s, I did it differently than I do now, age and wisdom. But look at every opportunity, no matter what job you're in, that it's really the Play-Doh in front of you. What do you want to do with it? What do you want to create? And how do you want to rally people around something you believe in that helps the greater good?
Let's wrap it up. If you have one more trend you wanted to share, Stacy.
The workplace, where we work, how we work, when we work. It's changed. Office, home, top of my roof. It's changed. And we need to understand that flexibility is no longer a want, it's a need. We also have to recognize and be kind to ourselves that FOMO, the fear of missing out, is real. And every day, the onus is on us to build connections. And it's just a different method of how we used to do it. So companies need to offer flexibility, not just as a perk. It's like table stakes. It's, it's kind of like my medical benefits. Flexibility is not even a conversation to me anymore. If you don't do it, you're not going to sustain your business.
There was an article, I want to say Microsoft, I'm probably wrong, CEO over there who basically stated, big, bold headlines, I don't know how to sustain an engaged culture with everybody working remotely. And this was his defense for bringing everybody back into the office. The biggest blowback on that was, you don't. You are a lazy leader who isn't basically making an effort to learn about a new way of engaging staff from what you've always done before and always want to do it because it's your safe space. So I love the fact that we are shifted. I think it is a changing moment for a lot of leaders because this is unfamiliar to them as well. It's not what they grew up with. It's not what their parents grew up with. So it is scary.
Yeah, it is scary, and anything change is scary. At the same time, life is not in extremes. Just because I work from home doesn't mean, in fact, more I care about getting out there, getting out and meeting with the team. Anybody we interact with our brand, getting out there. It's quality over quantity.
So I want to ask, as we get near the end of this lovely conversation about the future, what are you hopeful for? What are you hopeful about these trends and the way work is shifting? Is there anything that's sort of like making you excited?
I am excited. I see a trend of people over process. I see companies more focused on purpose. Yes, in business for revenue and growth. Yet that's not the first thing everybody is saying the way it's been most of my career. It's shifting. And it's people and it's care for people and it's not checking a box. And I'm hanging around those people so I see it more. I've chosen to put that in my universe and environment, or it's really happening more. I'm not sure which one it is, but either way, there's a lot of companies and good brands that are doing it. So be in the right room.
Stacy, what's one thing people can do right now to improve their relationships at work?
Listen. Listen, two ears, one mouth. Love that saying. I didn't make it up. It's true. Listen to hear, not listen, trying to figure out your response. And you'll be amazed what people are saying. And you have to watch what they're saying too. His body language is tremendous. In fact, I just gave this advice to a friend. We were together in person at an event. And this amazing friend, whenever sitting or with people, always crossed the arms. And I don't want to say male, female. I'm just going to say their arms. But always crossing their arms. And I said, God, you look closed-minded. You look unapproachable. And yet you're the kindest, warmest, amazing person. And it was game-changing because I watched at the event the change in the body language. And so that's why I say listen, body language matters, watch body language, and control your own because it gives a message to build relationships.
That is Stacy Sherman. She is the Vice President, Marketing, Agent, and Customer Experience at LiveOps Inc., and she's the founder and host of the Doing CX Right podcast, which I am lucky enough to be a guest on very, very soon. If you want all the details about Stacy, it's all in the show notes. I'll be blasting a bunch of links for Stacy in there if you want to get to know her a little bit better. Thanks, Stacy, so much for being on the show.
Thank you.